Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Before I get started, I want to give out a special thanks to both Mikkel and Topper for giving me beta access, which ultimately has allowed me to make this video. The topic at hand for today is if leveling and questing in Legion is fun. Is it too repetitive, is it boring, or are you going to enjoy it when you make your playthrough? So the first thing that I want to talk about is the scaling. Legion's new scaling feature allows you to quest in any zone in any order that you choose, which allows a lot of flexibility for players who might get bored of a specific zone. For example, you can quest through Ajuna, but if you get bored at level 101, you can switch to High Mountain. You finish High Mountain, you are now level 103, and you go back to Ajuna, and those mobs who you were once fighting are now scaled up to your level. Now a downside to this, however, is because of this scaling feature, none of the zones are completed in a chronological order, which means that zones you are now questing through don't really acknowledge your deeds or the threats looming in past or future zones that you have completed or about to embark on, because unlike in past expansions where you start out in the same zone as everybody else, then end in the same zone as everyone else, Legion is about choice when it comes to the order of questing, which is a pretty nice change. Next thing I want to talk about is the actual flow of the questing. A good majority of the quests in Legion flow from one to another and introduce new characters that you actually become attached to and are interested in learning about. This also ties in with the fact that on your first toon, you actually want to complete quests, not only for the experience that it gives you, but to also see the development of a character and what happens to them at the end of a quest chain. Some of these quests really show you that Blizzard wanted to make this specific character capture your attention. For example, some quests involve cinematics, flashbacks, playing through the hero's own eyes, or escorting them while they inform you of their history, which is really cool since it's not just like, oh yeah, kill 5 boars in Frostfire, then talk to this dude who was a great hunter in the past years so that you can turn him into a follower, then deactivate him because you want a random follower who has the treasure hunter trait. On the topic of flow, another great thing that I really like that I want to shine a spotlight on is the fact that dungeons are now tied into finishing up a zone. Up into WOD, questing and dungeons have always conflicted with each other in the leveling process, especially in WOD, where some people on the first toon that they level completely neglect running dungeons because they would rather do as many quests possible per zone so that they can recruit all of the followers and unlock all of the outpost bonuses before they hit max level. In Legion, Blizzard greatly improves upon this. You can now get the best of both worlds while leveling, since a good amount of the dungeons function as the conclusion to a zone. In order to finish the story of a zone and achieve what you have been trying to accomplish all throughout the quests in the area, you will have to run a dungeon to pretty much tie things up, which is something that Blizzard executed extremely well from what I've seen so far. Moving on to immersiveness, the zones are pretty beautiful. The themes to each zone do very well in reflecting the atmosphere of the area. For example, if a zone is about the elves, they do a damned good job of portraying the burdens and the issues that are afflicting them. Cinematics, there's a good amount of in-game cinematics, although I'm not sure exactly how many, mainly because every single time one is about to play, a loading screen takes its place. Voice acting, there is so much voice acting in Legion, from unique NPCs to quest givers to random NPCs to even mobs that you run into, and from what I can hear, they are done really well, especially the male Naga ones, which sound so fucking barbaric and evil. Also, one thing that I want to mention is that High Mountain in particular is absolutely beautiful. One of my favorite zones so far. I'm not gonna lie though, I did dread going into the zone mainly because I thought it was going to be boring when compared to the other three. But I was really wrong. It turned out to be the exact opposite. The voice acting, the theme of the quest, the amazingly beautiful zone, and the absolutely extraordinary music made me pretty sad to leave, honestly. When you guys quest through High Mountain, make sure your music is turned on. Now let's talk about the big bad Legion, the main threat at hand. If you are worried about getting tired of constantly having to battle with demons, then I understand. More than half of WOD were demons, and to build off of that, we now have an entire expansion that is Legion based. However, in Legion, we see much more than just demons. So far, after hitting max level on my warrior, I saw tons of different enemies throughout my leveling process that exist as a result of the Legion's invasion. But honestly, aside from the initial scenario and the Broken Shore event, I didn't feel as though I was swarmed swarmed with too much of the Burning Legion to where I was overloaded, but also I felt as though they weren't really present in some of the zones. Now if you pay attention, think critically, and know to an extent the lore, then you obviously will know that most of these enemies do what they do because of the Burning Legion's presence. But if you were to just quest through some of the zones and don't really read the quests, know lore, or are actually interested in it, then it's pretty easy to forget the true enemy behind this expansion. However, based on the narrative of the few quests that revolve around Khadgar and your class hall, I would say that it is more than likely that we will see plenty more of the Legion soon enough. Next is a concern that I have about the leveling process, and it is that there are only 4 leveling zones. This is a cause for concern, especially when you look at past expansions which had 5 to 9 leveling zones. When I made my first playthrough of leveling through Legion, I came into an obstacle that I had never come into before, and that is that I actually had trouble finding quests to hit max level, and I think this happened 90% through 108 or level 109 itself. Now I'm gonna admit I didn't do all of the bonus objectives in some of the zones, but I should not have to. Bonus is in the name for a reason. In Warlords of Draenor, after doing some, not all of the bonus objectives, in addition to a majority of the questing in each zone, I was able to hit max level a little after unlocking my outpost in the Grand. In Legion, players will have to complete nearly every quest, run the dungeons that conclude each zone, and most likely do almost every single bonus objective to hit max level. Granted, there is a level 110 zone with tons of quests to do called Suramar, which is absolutely amazing so far. I just feel as though there should have at least been one more zone to secure a player's leveling experience to max level to where you still have a good amount of quests left over. It's also going to be almost the exact same run through when you make an ult. Aside from your artifact weapons, you will have to do the same quests, the same zones, the same dungeons without a choice, whereas in like Wrath, you could choose to either quest in the Howling Ford or Borean Tundra when you start out, or like in Cataclysm where if you choose to do Vashir on one tune, you can always experience more content by questing through Mount Hyjal on your second tune. Even in WOD, Alliance started in Shadowmoon, Horde started in Frostfire, but in Legion, we will all go through the same 4 zones in every playthrough. But honestly, the zones are pretty fun. If I were given a choice between 4 of Legion's zones and say 6 normal zones, I'd pretty much go with Legion. This is probably going to be the biggest con on this rant, so if you guys are starting to panic, don't worry. Now the last and final thing that I want to go over is the gameplay itself. Some of these quests and scenarios, man, they are freaking good. A handful of quests are actually really fun as you play through them. Sometimes I find myself not even looking at the progress bar of the quest, you know, how many demons you're supposed to kill before I have to turn in, but instead, I'm actually enjoying the quest or scenario itself. Suramar is especially one zone that I love. Now I'm not going to say any specific spoilers, but some of these quests have you running, hiding, stealing, and killing people while being all sneak-like that you can't help but just think that you're playing a Warcraft themed Assassin's Creed. Other quests, especially the ones revolving around Khadgar, are absolutely amazing. I wish I could discuss them, but I won't do it because I know a lot of you guys won't want spoilers in this video, so we're gonna keep it at that. Just know that many characters, even old characters, will have a spotlight in this expansion, whereas in previous expansions, a lot of characters, especially faction leaders, aren't even heard of. Like, where the hell was Vol'jin in WOD? It's like he knew before us that the expansion was gonna keel over, so he decided to unsub until Legion. But anyways guys, these are my thoughts on Legion's leveling process. I very much enjoyed the first playthrough, definitely hella enjoy questing right now through Suramar, but I don't know how I will feel about this on my second or third ult. Granted, leveling is always a drag after your first tune, but unlike in past expansions where there were always a couple of zones that you can do at a certain level over others and choose to basically skip over an entire zone completely, in Legion, we will pretty much have to go through them all. I'll let you guys judge for yourselves, but as for now, peace out, take care, and like always, have a good one.